So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can wild camp in winter on a budget without having to spend thousands of pounds on gear just to stay warm. Let's get into it. Okay, so I think I've picked a pretty decent spot here. I've tried to take into consideration sort of like wind, because a big thing when you winter camping is going to be like the wind chill that you actually get. So when that wind's hitting the tent, it's blowing under the tent, you're going to be freezing. 9 times out of 10, if you're looking to do it on a budget, you're probably going to have a 3-season tent, so your sort of outside isn't going to be touching the floor, so all that wind's going to be getting blown up. So I'm looking at somewhere like this, which is quite dense with woodlands. You could look for things like big rocks, you could look for sort of like natural ditches in the ground where you can sort of put your tent in. That's going to be a big factor. But speaking of tents, let's go over what tent I've got and I'll sort of explain a bit more about your tents. Okay, so this is the tent I'm going to be using. Now this is a 3-season tent. Now essentially what a 3-season tent is, it's a tent that can sort of be used all of the seasons bar winter, essentially. Now I like to think of this tent as 3-season plus because I do use it in winter. Some of the sort of differences that you'll see with a 3-season to a 4-season is essentially a 4-season tent, the outer will touch the floor, so it'll essentially stop that wind from getting under your tent. The inside will be sort of all fabric, not fabric, but you sort of get what I mean. It's not going to have like mesh components in it because the mesh is obviously going to allow more cold to get in, and just subtle things like that which make sort of a big difference. Now a big thing about this is that this is a proper 3-season tent. It's not a sort of tent that's been bought from Tesco. It's not a pop-up tent. If you're looking to winter camp, I genuinely would look at investing in sort of a better, more quality made tent. You can still pick up some cheap ones like the Fox One from OEX. You can probably pick that up for like 50 quid second hand, 70 quid new. Something like that's going to keep you really warm. So that's something to think about. Okay, so we've pitched our tent, as you can see. Now we need to start thinking about what we're going to be putting in the tent in order to help us stay warm in cold nights. So the biggest thing that's going to take the heat away from you is going to be the ground. So we need something like this, which is an inflatable roll mat to essentially keep us off the floor and keep us warm. Now, there's loads of brands out there and there's loads of different price points, the same as anything. Now this one's Berghaus, I think it was like 40 quid, I think it was. I think it's an R rating of 3, so it's not the best. So the majority of you guys, if you try to be on a budget, you're not going to be wanting to spend £200 on a thermarest, or you're not going to want to spend over £100 on a Sea to Summit mat. But something like this is perfect because what we can do is add more things to it. So we might get a sort of foil foam mat that goes under it. At a push, like if you really wanted to sort of go on the budget end, you could just get one of those foil blankets that you see people wear sort of mainly after running events, and put one of them under, because what the foil then does is sort of acts as like an insulation layer, because it's sort of pushing the cold back into the ground and hopefully going to push your heat back into you. So one of these is going to be your best friend, and to me it's sort of the most important thing. So that's a definite must. Now, next is the big one, is going to be your sleeping bag. Now, this is a 3-season sleeping bag. Again, it's a Berghaus one. This is sort of like my more cheaper end stuff. I think this sleeping bag was around 50 quid. So it's not going to break the bank, but it's also, you know, not the cheapest thing in the world. Now, as you can see, this is a Transition 300C. The 300 essentially means it's a 3-season sleeping bag. So again, that matches the tent, meaning that this is going to be good for all sorts of weathers, but mainly not for winter. It's probably got a, yeah. So when you're looking for your sleeping bags, you should see something like this on the back of it. So this says it's got a comfort level of 1 degrees. It's got a limit of 5 degrees and it's extreme of 22. Now, if you guys think in the same way that I think, 1 degree, 5 degrees, 22. So there's a massive jump between 1 degrees and minus 22 degrees. So sort of take it with a pinch of salt, what it says in the bag, do your own research, figure out what's going to be best for you. But I know that this one will do me tonight. So with our sleeping bags, when we're sort of sleeping and stuff and it's cold at night, a lot of us will get into the habit of because they're designed to go over your head and you can pull it over your face, to put it over your face and that will keep your face warm. That's sort of a big no-no when it comes to staying warm. Now, you'll feel warm, but you'll fall asleep, you'll feel warm, and you'll wake up cold, because what you're essentially doing is every time you breathe, you're breathing into your bag. So you're creating condensation because around you's cold, inside's warm. So we're sort of breathing our like vaporized water into the sleeping bag, which is going to create more condensation, which is going to lead to a wet bag. Once you've got a wet bag, it's game over. Staying dry is a big thing. But a 3-season sleeping bag, check out on the back what it goes down to, make your own sort of research and figure it out, but something like this will be fine. Okay, so next up is one of these. Now, this is a little bit of luxury and I don't have a cheap version, so this is a bit of a pricier one, but this is essentially an inflatable pillow. Now, a lot of heat is escaping from our heads, our feet, our neck. So we want to try and keep these as warm as possible. So we've got our sleeping mat, which is going to keep our body raised off the floor, but 9 times out of 10, if you're going to get a bit of a budget sleeping mat, it's probably only going to really be torso size. So having something that's going to keep our head off the floor is a must. Again, you can pick these up from places like Tesco for like £1. These aren't really a big deal. I wouldn't say go out and get a Sea to Summit one. This is just a bit of luxury, but having something like this is going to help keep your head off the floor, keep you warm, and that's a must. So I've just packed everything in the tent, as you can see. Now we just want to talk about the sort of clothing that we want to wear when we're doing wild winter camping. So I've tried to be budget friendly with what I brought and what I'm bringing. There's no down jackets, no expensive waterproof jackets, no merino wool, nothing like that. I've essentially got a Carrimore fleece, which is keeping me nice and warm at the moment. I've got a cheap Peter Storm sort of like thermal layer, and then I've just got like a Nike sort of sports top as my base layer. So all of this is keeping my core temperature nice and warm. I feel warm right now, it's good. When I get into my tent, both of these layers are probably going to come off. Now I might switch this layer for this layer, I'm not too sure, it depends how cold I am, but I don't want to be too hot, because if I'm too hot and I start sweating, I'm going to create condensation. That condensation is going to fill the tent, fill the bag, everything's going to get wet, it's game over. But moving on, one of these is essentially going to be a lifesaver. This right here is a little beanie. Now, a little trick that I do is I put my gas in it, helps keep the gas warm, because when your gas gets cold, it struggles to work. It's quite annoying, especially if you want to cook some food up. So one of these is going to help. Now, I got this one from Morrison's, I think it was, for £3. Keeps your head warm, it works, it's cheap, it's going to be a lifesaver. Next, I've got socks, okay? So these socks, I just brought 2 cheap pairs of socks. These are some JCV's ones. These are ones I think I got from Asda. Now, again, it's going to be better to use something like merino wool. It's breathable, you're not going to sweat loads in it. It's going to absorb your sweat if you do. It's not going to get wet, like, it's going to be perfect. It insulates and it dries, like, it's great. But we don't want to be spending £37 on a pair of socks. So these are going to be perfect, these will do. Next of all, again, I've not got any merino wool base layers or anything like that. I've just literally bought a pair of joggers. Now, these joggers have got stuff in the pocket for some reason, but they're going to keep my legs warm, they're going to be good. Now, I can get away with wearing this sort of stuff. One, because I enjoy sleeping in the cold. Like, when I go to bed, my windows are always open. I just prefer being in the cold. So I don't need to be really warm to sleep. But also, another reason is because I've made sure that everything inside the tent is going to keep me warm also. Now, if I didn't have a good enough sleeping bag, I didn't have a good enough roll mat, and I didn't have my head off the floor, I wouldn't want to sleep with this sort of stuff on. I'd definitely sleep with warmer gear. But because I've taken these sort of steps to ensure that I'm going to be warm, I'm going to be off the floor, that's what, it's sort of a bit of a balance that I can sort of be lenient on the clothing that I'm going to wear, because I've made sure that all of that stuff is essentially what I need. So we've got everything that we need to keep us warm at night, but what happens if it fails? What happens if it doesn't keep you warm enough? What can we do? Well, there are some little cheap things that we can buy to essentially keep our body temperature up and make us a lot warmer. So one of the things that I like to use are these foot warmers. Now you can get the hand warmers. I think these are about £1 or 70p each from Home Bargains. I prefer these ones because they're just a bit bigger. They're adhesive. I like to chuck them in my bag. It heats my bag up. It's just nice and warm. Now you can also use hot water bottles. You can use like thick proper bottles. Now I wouldn't recommend using something, I've not got one on me, but like a little plastic bottle. I wouldn't fill that up with warm water because if it breaks, not good. But if you've got like a thicker bottle that's made for something like that, that's going to be perfect to keep you warm. Anything like that is ideal. Having a snood or like a little balaclava that you can put over your face to keep your face warm, that's going to be perfect, because we want to make sure that we're not putting our head in our bag and condensating it and making the inside of our bag wet, because if we wake up wet, it's not going to be fun. Now, another thing that we can do is drink hot drinks. Now, a lot of people, when they go camping, they like to have a beer, they like to have a bit of alcohol. Now, that's great, but alcohol is giving you the placebo effect that you are warm. So when you start drifting off, you'll start realizing quickly, I'm not warm, I'm actually freezing. So swapping your alcohol out for a tea or a coffee will help you massively. And also the food that we eat, let's eat like fatty, hearty meals. That's what's going to keep us warm. It's going to keep our metabolism going, which is the furnace that's going to keep us warm. And yeah, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to cook up and we'll just have a chat. Okay, so it's starting to get dark, so I'm gonna have my tea. So I've gone for a soup. It's something that's hearty, it's gonna keep you warm. And yeah, it's just ideal for winter days, essentially. So we wanna make sure when we're cooking with our stove, we are staying away from our tent. I know that this isn't really an ideal showing of that, but yeah, we don't wanna fall into the habit of trying to warm our tent up with sort of, yeah, with the stove, because there's so many people every year that sort of die from monoxide poisoning because they're using like wood burners in there, they're using like all these sorts of things which essentially will keep your tent warm, but it's not the best thing to be doing. So I'm on soup. I'm gonna throw this in here and heat it in the pan because the can's too small to fit on my stove. But yeah, I'm just gonna cook away and do what I'm doing. So I've wanted to make this channel for a while, and this video's essentially the pilot. Just sort of me getting used to sort of making the video, seeing how I'm gonna do it, how I wanna do it. I don't want it to be sort of like a lot of the other videos that are out there where it's very much sort of like cinematic and this is happening and this person's put a tripod down and walked past it and moved it again. I think it's cool and there's a place for it, but I sort of just wanna show like the raw sort of side of camping and have it be more conversational and like make you guys feel that you're on the camping trip as well. But yeah, like there's so many things I want to do. I want to go to some sort of like historical places, you know, I want to do some challenges and all sorts of stuff like that, and essentially showcase the hobby that I've been doing for God knows how long. But yeah, this video is essentially just a pilot, a tester for me, a bit of sort of, well, if you can make that one, you can make other ones. And yeah, I'm gonna go and eat my red hot soup in a can without a fork. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one, I guess.